Historian reads her top 9 worst comments. You guys need help. Video by NYTN. All right, let's go ahead and check this out, man. So here we have a lady. She's a historian, clearly. Can't tell her ethnicity. Maybe she's white, maybe she's Hispanic, somewhere in that range, maybe a mix of both. But it looks like she speaks a lot about Black history and Black empowerment. And she gets a lot of hate comments as a result of that. So let's go ahead and dive into this video and see what's going on.
I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And over the past few months, I have probably gotten thousands of comments. I mean, it's kind of more than thousands. Most of them are very thoughtful, very sweet. You're sharing your family history. Right. You're just sharing your interests with me. And then there are these. Today, I'm going to count down top 9 worst comments I have received over the past couple weeks. So starting strong with comment number 9. When is this ever going to end? So tired of hearing about this garbage.
Of course.
Now, this was on the video that I did this week that was about how to find preserved audio on the Library of Congress website. And in particular, I was sharing just a tiny bit of clips of people who had been enslaved and they were giving their recollections. And so this was a video about the 1940s, really. Wow. History that was less than 100 years ago when this man was speaking about his experience. You know, I would call these recent, right? In light of, human history. Look, maybe this person thought they were clicking on a video about garbage trucks. Honest mistake. The algorithm has been very weird lately for me, maybe for you as well. But calling American history garbage is such a choice. Yeah. It is such a bold choice. Like, sir, this actually happened. These were real people. And it's not
imagine that, calling somebody's testimony of what they actually went through in their lives, calling that garbage. It'd be one thing if you were some white supremacist racist and you heard somebody giving their opinions on slavery or on racism in America, and because you're an ignorant fucking Rockford brain couch chewer, you think it's garbage because you're not aware of all of the ways in which we can prove today that systemic racism is still a very huge problem in America, and you're a fucking retard. Yeah, okay, I can see how someone would call that garbage. But how are you going to call just like literal history garbage unless you're a fucking racist that doesn't want to look in the mirror and understand that you are benefiting from a ton of privilege just because you're white and your ancestors did some of the most evil shit in all of human history to a large population of people that are still here today and are still being affected by their decisions.
Fiction that I wrote. I didn't make up the 1930s, or I didn't make up slavery. Right. People lived through this that didn't get to opt out of the situation. They couldn't just say, oh, I'm tired of this decade and skip to the next one.
White fragility. The thing is, if they acknowledge history and the impact that it has on us today, then the only moral position they can come to in conclusion is that we should actively be doing things to try and rectify, mitigate the problems that were caused by the decisions made by racists in the past. But they don't want to do that because they're racist and they hate black people. And so they have no other choice but to just hand wave it away and call it garbage and nonsense.
Anyway, benefit of the doubt for this guy. Maybe he just really hates learning. Some people are like that. All right, number 8.
Right.
Comment 8 is delightfully brief. Just a comment about me virtue signaling. So I made a video using primary sources, which I usually do. This was the same video showing where you could hear enslaved people's own words. That's just called history with sources. Right. You know, the thing historians do. I definitely love getting demonetized and flagged by YouTube for sharing primary sources because it is such a virtue signal.
Yes, but reading history and knowing things about what happened in the past, virtue signaling.
Honestly, it's just like, this is scaring me. I don't know how old these people are. It scares me if you're young. It scares me if you're old. Okay, comment number 7 is one of my personal favorites because I have literally read this dozens of times and I still do not know what it means. She said, cyber slap upside your face. There, that's from the patriarchy. Okay.
That's incel talk. That's why you don't understand it. He's speaking incel.
I imagine this person sitting at their computer watching my video about like 1920 census records or whatever, and just going, not on my watch. The patriarchy.
Why not just click off the video? Why not just click off the video if you don't want to learn about Black history? Why do you click on a video about Black history just to insult the creator? What, you're mad that it happened?
Patriarchy must be defended. Time to cyber slap.
That is out of here, mister!
I still don't really know what that means. Whoever you are, patriarchy representative, I hope you're having a good day. I hope the patriarchy is treating you well, and I hope that you're getting paid overtime for watching my videos. Comment number 6 had some notes for me. Quote, you've always got so much energy for Black people, but you've hosted a WS and never criticized whiteness. Oh, you're boring. But here's my favorite part. Also, you're boring. Okay, so that's fine.
A WS?
Most people, when they find something boring, like if I find something boring, I just leave. I watch something else and then go and live my life, but not this person. This person has decided to stick around and actually regularly inform me that I'm boring. And I think that's beautiful, honestly. Like a weird parasocial life. Comment number 5. Okay, this is the top 5. It's going to get weirder from here. Quote, you seem jealous that you can't fit in with FBAs. Who makes a YouTube page over this? Sad. Okay, so I did a whole video responding to these kind of comments before. FBA is supposed to stand for...
Okay, so this is a FBA person. What was the original video? FBA says I can't claim my own ancestors. Shut up about Black history. Okay, all right. So seems like she's also getting pushback from Black people as well, who seem to not like it when other people talk about Black history. The person in the profile picture looks like a Black woman, so I'm going to assume it's a Black woman. Let me listen some more to what she's about to say before I give an opinion.
Okay, so I did a whole video responding to these kind of comments before. FBA is supposed to stand for Foundational Black American. It means that your ancestors were enslaved here in the US. Okay, I do have enslaved ancestors quite a lot. I've done many videos researching them, researching the plantations that they lived and worked on, bricks that they've made.
Oh, maybe she's Native American. Okay.
I've got the whole genealogical paper trail.
Okay.
So technically, I would be FBI, I guess.
Wow.
But I don't, because I don't like those kinds of labels. And
well, she would only be FBA if she was also Black, so maybe her ancestors are Black? I mean, they say you take any white person and you shake their family tree, a Black person's gonna fall out. And so who knows? Maybe her grandmother is Black, maybe her great grandmother is Black. But personally, I believe if someone's just given facts and is given information to empower Black people and educate dumb people and ignorant people about the realities of race relations in America, I don't know why you would have a problem with that. Would you prefer her being on the other side of the fence, you know, saying hateful shit about Black people and pushing anti-Black propaganda like the grand majority of people do on the internet? The sad truth is you can't win with some of these people. I do believe that this is a form of jealousy. I mean, I haven't seen any of those kinds of comments myself personally, but the other day, Almighty Jew, who I'm pretty sure is actually FBA, Jew Almighty, I should say, someone we react to on a regular basis, posts a lot of pro-Black content. Look at this. So he posts this. People are weird as hell. Random in my comments creating fan fiction about my life. My whole family is from DC, North Carolina, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. My granddaddy, almost 90, still in the same house our whole family grew up in. His daddy and granddaddy were both from the country in Virginia. Please shut the fuck up. You don't know me. And this is the person who posted it. He said, Jew is Nigerian. And I will never understand why foreigners/immigrants think it's okay to speak on Black American history while using words like we and ours. It's okay to talk about our history, but don't disrespect an entire lineage of people by thinking that you have the right to insert yourself. I don't know what tribe he is from in Africa, but I am 100% positive that Black Americans are not welcome to insert themselves into their history. Talk about culture appropriation at its best. So this guy is a fucking idiot because he doesn't understand what cultural appropriation even means. Cultural appropriation is when someone takes elements from a culture that isn't their own, such as clothing, hairstyles, music, language, religious symbols, or traditions, without understanding, respecting, or acknowledging the culture's meaning or context, especially when the source culture is historically marginalized or oppressed. And so it is impossible for Jew Almighty, even if, or myself as a Jamaican, It is impossible for us as black people who are just speaking truth to power, literally giving facts and history. That is not cultural appropriation. Neither would it be cultural appropriation to identify with black Americans in the sense of we are black. Now, I get it is a little different for Nigerians slightly because Nigerians weren't enslaved in Nigeria by white colonizers. But me personally, as a Jamaican, so in Jamaica, slavery was abolished in 1834, whereas in the United States, it wasn't abolished till 1865. That's about a 30-year gap in terms of it being abolished, and we abolished it first in Jamaica. However, African slavery in Jamaica was fully established by the early 1500s. However, in America, it was in 1619 that a ship carrying about 20 enslaved Africans arrived in the English colony of Jamestown in Virginia. And so slavery was already going on for about 100 years in Jamaica before the first slaves set foot in America. Also, in general, slavery in Jamaica and the British Caribbean was considered more harsh and more deadly than slavery in the United States. In America, American slaves were picking cotton, which is still very grueling, hard work that they had to do under the blistering sun. But in Jamaica, their primary export was sugarcane, which is a lot more of an intensive process of planting and harvesting and extracting the sugar from the sugarcane. My point is, blacks from the Caribbean have just as much right to talk about the impact of slavery on us as a whole, as black people, as black Americans. And so me personally, I never fake the funk. I never try to pretend like I'm a black American. From the moment, you know, there's this narrative in the FBA space that, oh, tethers and black people from the Caribbean, they come over here and they try to cosplay as black Americans. I've been famous on YouTube for almost a decade, and from day one, I've been shouting from the rooftop that I'm a Jamaican. I say that I'm a Jamaican almost every other video here. I don't give a fuck. If you get turned off as a black American, you don't want to hear me speak about black history, whether it's we're talking about African history, Caribbean history, or black American history, because because my ancestors got dropped off at a different port a few hundred miles away from where your ancestors got dropped off and received just as brutal, if not more brutal treatment for longer. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? You go over to wherever spaces you like to hear people talk about black history. If that bothers you, I think it's weird as fuck, but if that bothers you, go ahead and do that. I agree with the FBAs on a lot of things. I agree that if reparations get passed in America, the only people who should be entitled to it are the descendants of black American slaves. I also believe that there is a serious problem with black people coming from the Caribbean or Africa and then coming to America and then start to behave like raccoons and sell out black Americans. And I fucking hate that shit, and that shit like disgusts me and really irritates me. However, this, I gotta say, is the one aspect of FBA culture that I just don't agree with at all. And so I'll never call myself a black American. However, I do say we when I refer to black people because I'm black. My ancestors were enslaved by the same people your ancestors were enslaved by, which of course was Great Britain. What cannot be said is that I don't come from a people that went through the same shit that your people came from. Now, I will obviously acknowledge that in Jamaica, as a result of us being a majority of the island, in America, the majority of people were white during slavery, and still to this day. In Jamaica, the majority of people were black, even during slavery. So naturally, once slavery was abolished, it was a lot easier for black people to do away with racism. Now, we still have to deal with colorism, and the Europeans still control the island to a great degree and still had a lot of influence on the island and the government, and it caused a lot of corruption, which has resulted in Jamaica being a third world country. And so even though we didn't have Jim Crow and we didn't have segregation, our people were still held back in a lot of ways as a result of slavery, even post-slavery. So it's just kind of weird because on one hand, you criticize Jamaicans, you criticize people who aren't black Americans and don't have that lineage, right? Our ancestors got dropped off at a different island, or or if you're African, because that's another thing. You have to understand that the transatlantic slave trade decimated the West African economy. They took all of their healthy, strong, or a large portion. They depopulated so many of these African countries, and that's why they're in shambles today. It's a big part of the reason why a lot of these African countries are struggling today. The country that had the largest, could you imagine if 50% of all the working age, able-bodied men in America were just ripped out of the country? Could you imagine what that would do to the economy, to the future generations that would come after? I mean, we all acknowledge what horrible things happen when you take black fathers or fathers in general out of the home. Imagine if you take fucking 10, 20, 40, 50% of the men out of the country and just rip them out. And these people, they were doctors. They were important men, a part of society. They were the farmers. They were engineers. You know what I'm saying? These weren't people over there picking cotton. They just would grab you if you're an able-bodied man. It doesn't matter what your profession was in Africa. You were going to go and be taken to the Caribbean to chop sugarcane. You'd be taken to America to pick cotton. Meanwhile, back in Africa, you were an expert furniture maker or a doctor or a teacher or an educator. And so we're all connected. We're all connected, and we've all suffered. Whether you're an African from the West African coast, you're a black person in the Caribbean, or a black person in America, we have all been horribly afflicted by European colonialism and the enslavement of our ancestors. And so I just think it's incredibly weird that you complain about, oh, well, these immigrants, they come here and they delineate. They come here and they talk about how they're Jamaican, how they're from Trinidad, how they're from the Dominican Republic, how they're from Africa. But then when you see a black person, a black immigrant, who is actually trying to identify with y'all and be a part of y'all and participate in the fight against racism here in America and want to be a part of the group, you don't want them to. So which one is it? What do you want? You complain when they coon, you complain when they want to be a part of Black America. At the end of the day, it's just xenophobia. And it's also jealousy, because I think it just rubs some of these people, the people who say this kind of shit, the wrong way. That why aren't you doing it? Why don't you have a YouTube channel where you're talking about your own history? It's because you don't believe in yourself. You're afraid. You don't think you'll actually blow up, and it makes you angry to see somebody who you don't think is really a part of your group speaking truth to power about your people. But instead of hating, you need to just start believing in yourself and do that shit. And at the end of the day, when I get pulled over by a police officer, they're not going to treat me differently because I'm Jamaican. They're not going to treat a black person differently because they're African. They're going to face the same discrimination and have to battle against the same prejudices as a black person whose ancestry goes back to the 1600s here in America. And the sad truth is, this kind of sentiment actually creates more raccoons, right? Because they're like, shit, fuck it. Y'all don't want us to be a part, stand with y'all, then fuck it. So I'm all for black Americans shitting on raccoons, regardless of where they come from. And y'all got black American raccoons. Brandon Tatum, he's FBA. Anton Daniels, he's FBA. If I'm not mistaken, even Byron Donaldson, he's FBA. Y'all got raccoons too. So I'm all for shitting on them niggas, regardless of whether they're black American or Caribbean or African. But I don't get why there's just this hatred from some black Americans towards immigrants, or even people who aren't even black, like this lady who might sound like she either has Native American lineage or black American lineage, but of course she passes for a white woman or a Hispanic person. I don't get why when those people are trying to be a part of the solution, there's some black Americans, and I do think it is a small portion of the FBA community, because I think most of my fans are black Americans. So it isn't a majority, but I just don't get why exactly it is that there is just this hatred, man. It's so sad.
I feel like my identity is more complicated and important to me than just throwing some acronyms on there personally. That's just how I feel. But the assumption that I'm jealous about not fitting into a category that I literally have ancestral ties to is interesting. Also, this is also my favorite. Who makes a YouTube page over this? Sad. Me. I made a YouTube page over this and it's doing pretty well. Thank you for contributing to my watch time. So you're really helping in your own very special way. All right, number 4 is coming in hot. We got all caps here and emoji prayer hands. Why don't you just let African people talk about African people? You're not qualified for this position. Thank you. This video was, again, the video where I was showing how to listen to enslaved people's own words. I'm like, go to the Library of Congress, do your own research, don't just listen to me. Here's their testimonies, here's how you find primary sources. The entire point of that video is to let people speak for themselves. It's a perfect misunderstanding of the—
Yeah, again, this is kind of the same thing that I was just talking about. This time, this person is saying let African people talk about African people. However, you have to understand, if you're not a Black American, there's some Black Americans who would say, oh, but where are you from, Ghana? You can't talk about Black American history. And so it just ends up being a snake that eats its own tail, man. It's really not. What matters is truth being spoken to power. And you got to imagine, there are white people, white racists, who might never click on a video of a Black guy talking about Black history. But they see a white person or a Hispanic person talking about Black history, they might be a little bit more open to listening. I've had so many non-Black Americans, like people from the Caribbean and people from even Africa, who have changed the way they see Black Americans because they watch my YouTube channel. They were never going to listen to Tariq Nasheed. Why? Because they're going to see all of this anti-African, anti-Caribbean shit in the comment section. Because even though Tariq Nasheed himself, I don't think he participates in it, he doesn't block those people who come into the chat and just like talk shit about tethers and Caribbean people and African people and about their food and their culture and shit like that. And so even though Tariq himself might not be participating in it, the space doesn't really feel very welcoming and open to people who aren't FBA, and that can breed resentment in their hearts, and then they end up cooning, or at the very least being anti-Black American. And let's not forget, Black Americans have not made any progression without the assistance of even white people. It's all white people in Congress, guys. It's all white people in the Senate. If you don't want non-Black people giving a fuck about Black history and Black issues, then we're fucked. We are all fucked. You don't get your first Black president without white people voting for him. They're the majority of this country. Sometimes people end up being their own worst enemy, man. It's sad.
Assignment. Second, you're not qualified. All right, so like bad grammar aside, if you're going to question my credentials, this happens a lot, please just proofread your comments, okay? Like throw them at me. Throw me all your zingers, but please don't use the wrong your. Third, the thank you in all caps of praying hands emoji is such a power move. Like I literally laughed when I saw this one. Like I'm being condescending, but also spiritual. Listen, I get it. Skepticism about who gets to tell stories is a thing, right? History has been told badly by the wrong people for a long time.
That's
and when
true.
I say wrong people, it's not because there are necessarily right people to tell it, but you've got to do the thing justice, right?
Right.
All right, comment number 3. We're in the top 3 now, and it's about to get really spicy. So, this is a long one. I'm going to read as much as I can.
All right,
Quote,
we're back to white people leaving comments now. Okay, cool.
absolutely sick of the spineless white guilt cowards we have in our race. WTF is wrong with our liberal white women. I'm not liberal. They literally want to hand the knife to people that openly and proudly declare their hatred for whites in America. Laughing, crying face. Absolute embarrassment and disgraces to us. More laughing and crying. Thanks for attempting to lead the way in your own people's downfall. Laughing, crying, morons, laughing.
So sad that so many white people believe that Black people achieving equality in this country is the equivalent of white people suffering their downfall. These people tell on themselves without even realizing it, that they understand that the power they have is grounded in the oppression of other people.
Crying. How many Black men attacked white women just in the last 6 months alone? Laughing, crying. Y'all are idiots. Laughing, crying. Thank God I like Asian and Latina women. Boy, this—
Yeah, so fucking ignorant. Over 80% of white Americans who are killed in this country are killed by white Americans.
person would be disappointed if they saw my last DNA test. Okay, 7 laughing, crying emojis. There are 7. So this person decided I am a spineless, white guilt coward, which is a lot of adjectives. But here's the thing. I'm actually not who you think I am. I actually have very mixed ancestry. And so your entire thesis is based on the wrong information. It's like you went to a restaurant, went home, and just reviewed a totally different restaurant based on a totally different menu. It's like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Dude, this is a Wendy's restaurant.
Also, handing the knife to people. I want you to understand, this is like, we can laugh and have fun, but what this person, handing the knife to this person was me, again, going to the Library of Congress and being like, here's some primary sources.
Yeah.
Sir, we're teaching history with books and archives. There are no knives involved. It's mostly-
it's the same reason why slave owners didn't allow slaves to learn how to read, because they know knowledge is power. And so this person believes that educating people on Black history is the equivalent of handing people a knife to stab white people in the back. It's the same fucking shit.
And the grand finale, like, thank God I love Asian and Latino women.
Right.
My brother in Christ. You have just told on yourself in the worst way possible. I don't think that you really have a problem because your principles were attacked. I think it's because you don't like being disagreed with. All right, comment number 2 is the essay. This is a magnum opus.
Oh,
this
wow.
is a 200-word manifesto.
One.
But it's still not as bad as comment number 1. All right, this chick, okay, like I know we're about to get into some real historical nuance here. This chick either has a Black boyfriend or mixed children in her family. She spends a lot of her time defending Blacks who see her not as an ally.
That's not true. I see you as an ally.
Regardless of how hard she works on their behalf. But as a Becky, even if an Italian version, they hate you.
No, you hate her. You hate her. There is no more misogynistic group in America than white American men, and that's a fact.
Okay, I think this person's switching to not talking about me to talking to me. Desegregation has been a disaster for whites for obvious reasons. President Lincoln wrote in a letter to a friend that the freed slaves would have to be repatriated back to Africa because they were unable to live, function, and positively contribute to white society. If they are not returned, the consequences would be catastrophic. His words, not mine. History has proven him correct. Separate but equal worked. Give them their own separate tax base. No white money. Oh my gosh. And see how fast they collapse. It would look like Haiti in just a few months. Okay. We actually have to get into some history here. I know we were all here for laughing. We got to chat.
Okay.
And the payoff will be comment number 1. So 200 words. This person wrote an essay with a thesis statement and a conclusion about Haiti. So first let's talk about Black boyfriend, mixed kids. So my husband's Puerto Rican and Mexican, also English. Our kids are mixed. And I've been married for 16 years. Yeah, happily married with my 3 kids. Mm-hmm. So gold star for him. He didn't know about my kids. But the rest of the detective work, sadly, no more gold stars. So the Lincoln thing, I did a video on this. Lincoln did support colonization. It was a plan, but his views evolved dramatically. And I want to point you to that video so I don't use this video to explain what happened there when they were trying to send enslaved people. And the idea of, after emancipation, providing them with the ability to colonize other places. Well, it was a catastrophic failure because the U.S. totally dropped the ball on these people. Okay, so I did a video on that. So that's one part. I want to actually jump to Haiti. And Haiti became independent in 1804 after the only successful slave rebellion in history. And France basically said, okay, cool, now you have to pay us reparations though, because you freed yourself. Like, France forced Haiti to pay slaveholders 150 million francs for the crime of not being enslaved anymore. That is 10 times what the Louisiana Purchase cost the United States.
Yeah.
So Haiti had to pay.
Yes. The reason Haiti is in shambles is because of white people. Could you imagine being forced to pay money as a result of receiving your freedom from being enslaved? They're like, you owe us money now that we're done using you for free labor for hundreds of years. You now have to pay us back a shit ton of money. And it didn't just stop with France. America, white America, participated in it as well. This is yet another reason why it's so cruel. And I think FBAs who participate in this kind of language don't even realize they're doing it, but you're literally making yourself a tool of white supremacy, because all of these countries that have been destroyed because of white supremacy, when those people in those countries want to go to America, want to come to America so they can actually have a fighting chance of having a decent life, an opportunity that was severely handicapped for them by white supremacy from countries like America and Britain and France and Spain, they get demonized for it. It's like if somebody came and stole your TV and then they complain that you want to go over their house and watch TV.
So Haiti had to pay that debt for a long time. It was 122 years, I think. In today's money, it was like 20 to 30 million. No, excuse me, 20 to 30 billion. I think I read. Scholars have called it the greatest heist in history. Okay, so when you use Haiti as the example of, see, they can't even govern themselves, you are literally ignoring 2 centuries of active sabotage on these people and exploitation. That's just the facts. That is not evidence of anything except like deliberate destruction. But yeah, definitely blame Haiti for that. Okay,
Right.
Comment number 1. This is the worst comment I have received in the last month at least. Not the most racist one. Oh, I've gotten some bad ones. Not the most violent. Gotten some bad ones there. But I would say this is the worst. We're going to talk about why.
Let's see.
Again, this is a comment on the Library of Congress video where I said, and here's how you find sources. Why wallow in slavery from 175 years ago? All you are doing is continuing a slave mindset. Why identify as a slave? I think he's referring to me saying that I had enslaved ancestors. If you don't dig up the past and wallow in it, and choosing to live your life does not make you a bad person. Your ancestors would rather you live a long, fruitful life free of the problems of their day. Time to pick a new topic. Josh, my dude, my guy.
So ignorant.
You were telling a historian to stop doing history. Let me say that again. You were telling me as a historian, stop researching history.
Right.
That's like telling a chef to stop cooking, telling an archaeologist to stop digging.
These are, of course, the same people who will take a look at Black people living in gang-infested neighborhoods and in the hood and blame them for them being in that position, yet they don't ask themselves why or how they got there.
The thing that's wild to me about like how old something is, and we say like, it's too old, like drop it. Nobody tells archaeologists, why are you digging up ancient Rome? That was
Right.
forever ago, just let it go. But 175 years of American history, suddenly it's too far back. Suddenly we're
Right.
wallowing. And here's the thing, we both know what this is. It's not because the history is too old. It's because sometimes history is going to make you uncomfortable. Actually, history is going to make us all uncomfortable, right? In different ways.
And also, if you learn about Black American slavery, what you're going to quickly find out is that there wasn't a clean break once slavery was abolished. You ask yourself, okay, so the slaves were freed. What happened to them next? And then the more you keep following down that brick road, you're going to come to the realization that the oppression is still happening today. Oh no. And things need to be done. Laws need to be passed. Policies need to be put in place. Resources need to be invested to address the disparities that exist as a result of that oppression. And they don't want that because they understand that Black people have come a very far way. We got Black billionaires, Black millionaires. We have Black professionals in literally every field of profession there is. And that's with the oppression. Could you imagine how far the Black community would go if the same kind of privileges and handouts that have been given to white Americans for hundreds of years, if the playing fields were leveled? If this is how far Black people can come under oppression, I mean, they're gonna fucking rule the country. If they have an if they are able to receive the same privileges and the injustices that were done against them and their ancestors were finally rectified. Oh my God, that frightens them. That scares them. And it would be the last thing to completely shatter the illusion of white supremacy.
And you said your ancestors would rather you live a long, fruitful life free of the problems of their day. Oh, did you ask them? Did you call my ancestors? Are you texting with them?
Right.
Because here's the thing. I think my ancestors who survived slavery, who built lives after it for my family, for me, I think they'd be okay with their stories being told. I think they would actually want people to know what happened, and they would want the record to be set straight. And even people who had the opportunity to be interviewed in their own words, which I don't think any of my family who were enslaved had that. But that's what the Library of Congress has. That's what I was talking about. But according to Josh, I am literally identifying as a slave by teaching American history.
Wow.
What I feel like wallowing about the history would be like being like, let's stop talking about it. Like, that didn't happen, or I'm tired of talking about that. Like, that feels like it. You're wallowing in ignorance.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of your comment, Josh, the cherry on top, is that you think studying history means I cannot have a long, fruitful life.
Right.
Like, these are mutually exclusive. I promise you, I'm doing fine. I have a husband that I love. I have kids I adore. I'm home with them. I'm homeschooling them. I have a beautiful hobby, sharing my passion for history with kindred spirits all around the world. And part of that fruitful life, to me, is making sure that hidden history, people's stories, are being told and that they don't get erased, including my own ancestors. But if you think those two things cannot exist or coexist, if you think remembering the past makes people miserable, that says a lot more about you than it does about me.
Yeah, truly it does. Truly it does. So we discussed a lot of things here in this video, things that I think can irritate people from all the groups, black, white, and everything in between. And so I'd be very interested to see what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.